Okay, so I am recording this presentation, so I want to thank everybody for coming, and I also want to thank Vivian for doing this. This program we've entitled Recycle, Compost, Toss helps you sort out your trash, literally. Seattle Outreach Specialist Vivian Wang from Waste Management is going to give you the lowdown on what's trash and what's not, and help us all kind of do our part for the environment. And then she will have Q&A afterwards, which I will leave the recording on for as well, because your Qs are probably other people's Qs, and they're probably also looking for those As. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Vivian Wang, Seattle Outreach Specialist for Waste Management. Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you, Alan. My colleague Allison is also on too. So we're both Seattle Outreach Specialists, basically help folks in the community and educate them on proper recycling and compost. And so for today's presentation, it's going to be relatively short, about 15 to 20 minutes, where I'm just going to go over just the general basics of recycling in Seattle, some of the questions of like, where does it go, and just how to sort them properly. And so I think to help make this a little run smoothly, it'll be great if folks can mute themselves. And then when we're able to do the Q&A, feel free to unmute yourself. And it's the only housekeeping things I have. Other than that, let's get started. So hopefully folks can see my screen, but just a little bit what we're gonna go over. It's like, where does our garbage go? Why recycle? Where does our recyclables go? What determines recyclability? Which was something that I found really interesting when I started this position. What can be recycled? What can be composted? And some of the resources that the city of Seattle has. Next. So I like to always start off with this waste characterization pie chart. Back in 2015, slightly outdated now, but King County did an assessment of their landfill just to see what is going in it. And you see a lot of it is food, wood, yard waste, glass, metal, plastic, paper, some electronic waste, other organics. And so a lot of these, what they've come to realize is that a lot of them can either be composted and recycled. And so for your plastic, your metals, your glass, your paper, all of that can go in your recycling. Your food, your wood, your yard, and other organics can go in your compost. And so the whole point of recycling and compost is to try and divert as much of those waste away from your landfill, so we can only strictly put garbage, what we cannot recycle and compost, into the landfill. And so this right here is a picture of carrots that were in landfills for about 10 years roughly. And you can see that it hasn't really decomposed or broken down at all, because the landfill doesn't have the right type of environment to really break down these carrots. And so, when these types of organics and food waste go to the compost facility, they have the right type of environment, the right amount of heat, temperature, water, all of those mixed in that's able to break it down. But the landfill, it's anaerobic, which means there's not a lot of oxygen that goes in. They want to seal that. And that isn't very good in breaking down food waste. So, we really want to make sure that we take food waste away. And here in the city of Seattle, very lucky to be able to do that. So just one of the many examples of like what happens when we throw in like organics in the landfill. And so where does our recycling go? And so in general, the recycling gets picked up by a truck just like ours. And it goes to what we call a material recovery facility, or MRF for short. And at the MRF, basically the trucks comes in with all of these recyclables and they dump it on what we call the tipping floor. And at the tipping floor, it gets put on these assembly lines, and we have people, what we call sorters, basically go through and try to take out as many contaminants, basically what doesn't belong in the recycling. They just hand sort them. And after that, eventually they get compacted into what we call bales. It's just these large rectangular cubes, and then that gets shipped out to a buyer or a manufacturer that wants these materials. And so, a lot of folks always wonder, where does Seattle's recycling go? And so in general, about a third of it stays in Seattle. We actually have a glass recycling facility in Seattle. So 100% of the glass that you recycle, it stays within Seattle. And then about a third of it gets recycled in, the Pacific Northwest and North America in general. And then the last third gets shipped out to Southeast Asia, mostly mixed paper. And so in general, pretty good, about 2/3 stays local wise or within North America. And so what determines recyclability? Folks, there's always different, recycling lists, in different cities, different counties, different states, and, why is it not universal in general? And I think when it comes to what determines these different recycling factors, recyclability factors, that kind of determines why lists are very different when it comes to all of these different entities. And so the first one is manufacturing, is that a manufacturer must be able to make something new from the material. And so if they're not able to do that, that item cannot be recycled. Preparation is basically, I think, where we as consumers have the most control over, is how clean can we make the recyclable? And so we want to make sure it's clean, empty, dry, and loose. And then if it can't be prepared cleanly in a way, that item cannot be recycled. The third one is separation, is the recycling facility must be able to sort it out in its own group. And so the recycling facility needs to have the right technology to be able to sort it. And then if it does not, that item cannot be recycled. And lastly, it's markets, is that a manufacturer must be willing to buy the material. So there has to be some type of demand for this material to be recycled. Again, if there isn't, most likely that item will not be recycled. And so all of these different factors have to be true. So manufacturing, preparation, separation, markets all need to be true for it to be determined on like your city's recycling list. And so now we're going to go over what is accepted in the city of Seattle. So we're going to go over recycling, compost, mostly just those two. Those two topics. And so when it comes to paper, pretty much any type of paper can go into the recycling. The most important thing I want folks to remember is we want to make sure we keep that dry, because when it becomes wet, those fiber gets broken down and it's too short, and that paper can't be recycled. And so especially here in the rainy Pacific Northwest, we want to make sure that when we do throw it out into the recycling cart or dumpster, wherever you throw it at, that make sure that the lid is closed, and we want to make sure we keep it as dry as we can. And then when it comes to cardboard, we want to make sure those cardboard is also flattened. It takes up less space. It's easier for the drivers to dump them. So we want to make sure we keep those cardboard flattened. When it comes to shredded paper, some folks have asked if we can throw that in recycling. Shredded paper is too small. We talked about like sortability, and if we can separate it, those paper is too small. It slips through the sorting wheels that are at the recycling facility. And also those fibers are just like too short, like in general. And so those are not accepted in recycling. Now, when it comes to plastics, I feel like it can be the most confusing. Some of us, I think, grew up with thinking about all of these different numbers, and there's just all these different ways that we have learned when it comes to recycling plastics. Here in the city of Seattle, we've made it very simple, and we want folks to recycle by shape. So ignore the number, just look at the shape of the object. If it's in the shape of a cup, a tub, a jug, in a cup, that was kind of a tongue twister there, then that can be recycled in Seattle. So anything like in a bottle, in like a large jug, even the clamshells, because it has like a rigid shape, those are all accepted in recycling. When it comes to how small an item can be, anything roughly about smaller than about a fist size is too small. That can't be sorted at the recycling facility. So you want something that's larger than that. And then you might see here, there's a text that says lids wider than 3 inches. Again, if it's too small, slips through the sorting wheels, and then it's not able to get sorted where it needs to go. So we want about lids that are 3 inches and wider. And if you have the Where Does It Go guide, which I'll go over later, you can find this like online, or we can give you a hard copy like this. It's a really great brochure. That's, this background is kind of making it confusing, but it folds out into all 4s. And right here, there is a line. I can't really see it now, but there's a line on the brochure that tells you that that is 3 inches. So anything wider than that is accepted in recycling. And when it comes to plastic bags, you know, earlier I said we want to make sure we keep recyclables clean, empty, dry, and loose. And when we say loose, you know, we want folks to not bag their recyclables. The reason why we don't want them to do that and have any type of loose, stretchy plastic is because they get stuck in these sorting wheels. So this right here, all of these black wheels that you see are the different types of sorting wheels that sort these different materials where they need to go. And then they get caught in the wheels. And then we have to shut down the facility about every 2 hours or so. And then our workers have to go in and manually cut them. So it's not safe, it's very inefficient. And so we want to make sure that we try to lessen the amount of stretchy plastic that we throw in there, any type of tanglers, hoses, like Christmas lights, anything like that to go in the recycling. So we want to avoid that. And next, when it comes to metals, so any type of aluminum cans, you know, your metal pots, those can all be recycled. Even aluminum foil, we want to make sure it's clean, and then we want to make sure you ball them up. So the chances of them getting recycled is higher than if you just have a sheet of aluminum foil. And when it comes to glass, any type of color of glass is accepted in recycling. But what we want is what we call the single use glass. So the ones that you basically find like at the market, like your honey jars, kombucha jars, beer, wine bottles, ketchup, anything like that, your condiment jars, those are all accepted in recycling. What we don't want is what we call durable glass, which is like your Pyrexware, your bakeware, your windows, light bulbs, and glass cups. Those two, the single-use glass and the durable glass, have different types of melting points. And what is accepted in our recycling facility are the single-use glass. And so those are the type of glass that we only want in the recycling. And now we're going to move over to compost. And similar with recycling, there are 4 different types of materials and items that are accepted in compost. First is food waste. Any type of food waste can go in there. Even your eggshells, your bones, meats, all of that can go into the compost. Next is compostable paper. And so that's mostly food soil paper. So your napkins, your paper towels, your coffee filters, those are all accepted in the compost. Yard waste, you know, your plant trimmings, flowers, branches, leaves, those are all accepted in compost. And lastly, compostable items, which I think is the most confusing when it comes to the compost section. And so the thing we want to remember when it comes to compostable items is that we want to make sure that we dispose items that say the word compostable or industrially compostable on it. If it doesn't have that type of terminology in it, we don't want to throw that in the compost. You can also look for these 2 certifications, BPI and Cedar Grove. That is also 2 reputable compost certification. that tells us that that is accepted at our compost facility. You know, when in doubt, I say follow the guide. And so that is the where does it go guide that I was talking about. It flips out into this 4-panel that basically tells you everything that I just went over when it comes to the compost, recycling, anything else goes into garbage. And they just added last year a reuse section, which is great. And then if not, Seattle also has this online tool, what we call the where does it go tool, where you can basically type in any item you're thinking about disposing, and it will tell you how to dispose of that item properly. You know, either they tell you you can recycle or compost it, or they'll tell you how to, or it might go into garbage, or they might, you know, encourage you to donate it or figure out ways to reuse it. There's just all these different ways that they have. And so I can drop this in the chat later or send this resource over to Alan. But this is a really great online tool. You know, I also want to, you know, remind folks that we want to make sure that before, you know, we recycle, we still want to basically reduce and reuse, you know, those 2 R's before, and ask ourselves like these questions, you know, when it comes to reducing, you know, can I buy this item used or with less packaging? When it comes to reusing, you know, can I or someone else use this item again? You know, if you like to repair, you know, can I use this? Can I repair this item? Lots of R's out there. And then, you know, when it comes to recycling, you know, can I recycle this item properly after I use it? And then when it comes to buying items, can I buy this item with recycled content? All of these, you know, help with the our recycling, compost, making sure that they're clean, but also just in general with the general message that we want to basically protect and save our planet here. And that is all that I have. I know that was a lot of information. And so I can also drop my information in the chat too, or however, or maybe email it to Alan, or if you have any information, feel free to email me. But other than that, it's time for some Q&A. Anyone have any questions?
What do we do with plastic bags?
So when
our living situation has generated a lot of them this past year.
Absolutely. So when it comes to plastic bags, some grocery stores still take them, like Fred Meyer, Safeway, and Target, I think might also take some. Double check with the grocery store that are within your area. They still take plastic bags. If not, I always encourage folks to figure out ways to reuse them. But if you can't drop them off, the best place would be just throw it to the garbage so we can keep the recycling as clean as we can.
I've also had experience, sorry to butt in, but at
transfer
station.
For it. Yeah.
At transfers, I'm a little bit of a crazy person at my house about the garbage and sorting everything. At transfer stations, they have a place where they take plastic bags too, as long as they're clean.
Okay. Okay.
The Ballard Market takes them.
Ballard Market?
Yes.
Okay.
And there are sometimes people that are looking for clean plastic bags. Like I use them for my garbage because we're able to compost and recycle so much. Our garbage can is actually comparatively very small to where we put clean plastic and clean recycling and compost. I was wondering, can I ask about tin foil? Can that go in compost or recycling?
So for tin foil, as long as it's clean, yes, that can go in recycling. Okay,
but not in compost if it's got food waste on it.
Yeah, not in compost. The only type of I guess something that might be comparable to that is like pizza boxes. And so that, you know, especially because that has a lot of grease and food that can be on it, we recommend composting that instead of recycling that, unless it's absolutely clean. There's not a lot of grease in it. You know, some folks, they're very, you know, into this recycling compost. Sometimes they'll cut off the top part of it because usually that's pretty clean because the pizza hasn't been on it. They'll recycle that and throw the bottom half into the compost. But in general, we recommend putting pizza boxes in the compost because it's a type of food soil paper. You know, as I talked about, like your coffee filters, your napkins, kind of falls into that category.
And it's okay to use the eco bags to put compost into, the green ones that you can get.
Yeah, so if it says that it's compostable on it, that's okay, as long as you're using it for food waste. I know some folks, you know, have compostable bags when it comes to picking up their pet waste. That is not, if it has the waste in the bag, that is not accepted in the compost. It's just strictly like the bag itself. But if you're just using it for food waste, that's what I use, you know, to hold my food scraps, that's totally okay.
So what's the difference between tin foil and kitchen foil? Are we talking about the same thing?
I think we're talking about the same thing.
In
Yeah.
Graphics, you had one that you wanted to, the foil to be all bundled up, all crushed together.
Right. Yeah. If it's just a sheet of like tin foil, you know, that can easily get lost in the recycling facility. But if you ball them up or even put it within, I think when it comes to, in general, when it comes to metal, because they're all relatively the same material, you can even like put it in like a metal can just to ensure that it gets recycled. You know, some folks have asked us, like, you know, when it comes to the cat food can, any of those type of cans, the lid itself is technically not 3 inches or wider. However, because it's made out of the same material, you can just like smush it in or put it in the can itself and just ensure that it stays there more so it can be recycled better.
And tin foil and aluminum foil is the same thing?
Yes.
Yeah. And these little pie pans are tin.
Yeah, they might be so though that is accepted, but the only reason why I might be on the fence about it, they might be a little bit too small.
Too small. So
know,
what
right.
I did is I just saved them up till we had a bunch, and then I wrapped it in the aluminum foil to make a bag.
Oh, then yeah, then that works too. Yeah. Get creative.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question about the packaging that we have been getting for a long time when meals are delivered to our doors. Many, if not most of the packaging of our meals are in those containers that say commercially compost only. Okay. There are some that say made from plants, and that's all they say on them. So what is the conclusion to reach about the recyclability or compostability of containers that only say made from plants?
You know, I feel like the languages can be very loose. So that is why I like to just stick with, if it says that it can be, like you said, commercially composted or industrially compost, or I've seen like compostable also. If it says made with plants, I will err more on the side of caution. Either you can personally reach out to that company, ask them if that can actually be industrially composted. But if not, I would say put that in the garbage instead of the compost.
Okay.
As we want to keep the compost as clean as we can too.
So the second thing I have to say is basically a comment as much as a question, and it is to Alan or anyone else on the staff here. We're relatively new, about 3 months here, and so we don't know what in the past has been done inside of Hearthstone to advertise to people what is compostable, what is recyclable, what is garbage. And the reason I say that is that when I take our articles down to the facilities that are provided, what I see is the same thing going into garbage and recycling and composting. So it says to me that people just don't know. And so some work needs to be done here. I think probably just in an education and this is a very helpful program toward
Yes.
setting up what are the rules. Now that needs to be transmitted widely to all the residents.
Yes, so I am going to, I'm recording this. So I'm going to put it on channel 370 all next week. And then if there are some screens that I can put up on our digital posters, that might be a good thing too. So if you can get anything to me, Vivian, that would be great. I have a call coming in, so just 1 second, sorry.
Vivian,
Yes.
when you showed the pictures of the papers, acceptable and not acceptable, it looked like on the unacceptable side was a milk carton. Yeah, are milk cartons not acceptable for recycling?
So I'm just flipping through that screen.
In the lower right-hand corner
Right,
of the not
yeah.
acceptable column.
I do see it. So some of the milk cartons are lined with a what we call polycoated like material on it, which means it's lined with a plastic lining on it. And
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, and so so because of that, we encourage folks to not throw that in recycling, as those materials will be very hard to separate. Especially I feel like with some of these cartons, some of them sometimes even have like foil in it and all these different type of materials that are glued
Okay.
together. What we strictly want is just strictly paper, like your
Okay.
mailers, I don't know, cardboard, magazines, anything like that.
Now, I have a question about the cardboard. We're to flatten it, but are we also to remove all the tape pieces that are on it?
Yeah, so when it comes to the tape, unless there's an excessive like amount, it's okay to just leave. If it's just like one tape at the top, one tape on the bottom, and just sides, that is okay. But if it's, there's a ton of tapes on it, then we do recommend taking that off.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I have a question.
yeah, go ahead, Gail.
I have this rather large green bag from a catalog from LL Bean, and it says, please recycle. But it's a plastic bag.
Right. Yeah. I know we've been in talks with like Amazon before and other like businesses before with that. We do not accept that. And I think for some of them, they're starting to say, at least check with your local recycling guide. Like I've seen those, terms before. Recycling, like I said, it's just different all across the country and it can be very confusing. I always tell folks that the best way is to look at your local city guide, and here is just City of Seattle. So we do not accept that. We do not encourage folks to throw that in the recycling. But I'm glad you brought that up.
So
It's
it goes-
confusing
goes to
because
the garbage.
Yes, goes in the garbage.
Thank you very much. That's
Yeah.
But
You're
I think it could also go to like a Fred Meyer or a Winco, right?
It can, yeah.
Plastic bag recycling or the transfer station
Right.
or Ballard Market, I think somebody was saying. So I think there are, I think Ann and Dick, you're muted. So let's see.
So,
Safeway takes the plastic bags.
Oh yeah,
it's
Safeway
nearby.
does too. As long as it's clean and it's a plastic bag, like you can recycle produce bags, you can recycle just about anything.
Yeah, they usually also encourage, if you do that, to bunch a lot into one large plastic bag and then throwing it in instead of a lot of individual. That's what I've been told before too.
Thank you for saying that, because my wife makes fun of me for my bag of bags. And my kids also make fun of me. And now everybody here is probably going to make fun of me too. But it's good to have validation from a professional.
Yeah.
I have two questions. One is a general question about disposing of batteries, and the other has to do with small amounts. It's a local question about organic solvents, but in terms of batteries,
batteries
we
down.
have a separate container down at Cove East. I guess all batteries, alkaline, lithium, all those go into that. About recycling batteries or disposing of batteries.
Yeah, so batteries is type of electronic waste, so that can't be thrown in the recycling. You can I think drop that at a transfer station, or even some places, I think like Target or other of those like general stores are accepting electronic waste. A good place to check is the Where Does It Go website that I was talking about. I can drop that in here. for folks.
Well, the Lakeside building, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Lakeside building has a bin on the lower level for batteries.
Yeah, what I was
think
going to
there's a small
suggest,
container in the resource center and a bin way down at the far end of where the lockers are. That's
I'm
an
wondering-
open bin.
But we
I'm
can. put
wondering,
one in the
Alan,
Garbage, in the garbage can in the closet in our laundry room.
Yeah.
You can put batteries there.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know.
Laura, did you have a question?
And
I
like,
had a comment, observation. It seems to me that might be useful to collect some of this information on special uses, because we have somebody here who wants to collect corks and has found a place to take wine bottle corks. Of course, we generate lots of those. So you might want to put together a Hearthstone, a special guide for Hearthstone. Here's what you can do here
Mhm.
for
You-
special purpose stuff. I
What's
noticed,
really cool is for a while we had a green committee, and I think Karen Brightwater was the head of that as far as staff goes, but a lot of that stuff can be done by residents, because one more thing might make my brain explode.
I'm wondering if you could talk with your peers about reinvigorating the Green Committee then, because.
Yeah, I think that's a nice idea.
I
I was making a note, like I could put a slide on the digital posters in 370, but reinvigorating the Green Committee. This might be a good sort of launching point, like this video would be a good training video.
It's on the green.
Oh, Alice Spears started just before the pandemic started. Thank you, Claudia.
Right.
Claudia, was Claudia's question answered about whether greenware is compostable or recyclable?
green what?
It's
Green.
called greenware. Is it compostable or recyclable?
Is that a type of item? Like,
It's like silverware, a silverware substitute.
okay,
Oh,
like a
Plastic forks,
compostable. Yeah,
spoons.
I feel like if it says that it is compostable, then that is accepted in the compost. I'm trying to do a quick Google search right now.
I think it's
Yeah.
made.
I probably have
mostly
seen it before.
cornstarch.
I'm looking it up. It's a name of a company.
Okay, it's
or
a name of a
product from
company.
a company. And it does look like it is,
Oh.
it says renewable.
Diane is.
This says greenware made from plants, and we get food in them every single day.
Yeah. It does say they're compostable.
Okay.
They're certified to be 100% compostable in industrial facilities,
These,
Okay.
which may not be available in your area, but it is available in our area, right,
It is,
Vivian?
yeah, yep,
Okay.
yeah.
So we've been doing the right thing.
So
So
those
we
are-
answered a question. I love it.
Okay. I have a question about the plastic pots that plants come in. I've heard different things. If you wash them and they're truly clean, they can be recycled. Is that so?
yes.
Yeah, so as long as it's I forgot how big it is. I'm assuming like 4 inches, maybe 5 inches or like larger, those plant pots are accepted in recycling. Yeah.
But this is this too small to go in recycling?
Yeah, that
That's
looks a bit,
compostable.
pretty tiny.
Yeah, put it in compost, but it's okay in compost.
If it's
is that
greenware,
a
yeah.
compostable?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, then that is okay to throw in the compost. Yeah.
Cool.
Good to know because we get a lot of those.
Yes.
And then we get little cups like this with juice
Yeah.
in them, but you said
Or
They-
fruit.
that,
Yeah.
that would be plastic. But we have to put them in the trash, you said, because they're too small.
For breakfast,
Right. Yeah.
orange juice and
Oh.
cranberry. Yeah.
I thought you just said compost. They go in compost.
Well, these go in compost, but if
Yeah.
it's those white plastic juice containers,
Oh, okay.
white cups that are plastic, these are compostable, but the white plastic isn't.
Oh, okay.
It's a
I have a
donation.
question about the foil tops that are 3 inches that come on yogurt containers and sour cream and cottage cheese. I've been taking those off and washing them and putting them in the recycling. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, it's great that you're definitely cleaning them. Recommend just balling all of those up after.
All those,
Right,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't, but some of those that look like foil are really plastic. If it's foil, you could tear it, but.
Yes.
Yeah, if they're lined with plastic, we don't recommend like that, but there's so many things out there. I'm barely keeping up. But if you know that it's foil, then great. But if not, then I wouldn't recycle it.
Okay.
Yeah, here's my bag.
Oh, great example. Yeah,
Safely.
ball them all together.
A bag of bags.
Nice.
Bag of bags. Safeway.
Mm.
Yes, or bring them down to my office, but not all of them, please.
We'll stuff your office full of bags.
Oh gosh, yeah, they're going to be pouring out. Does anybody have any other questions?
So I want to know about bottles with screw tops. Is a screw top recycle? They're small, on a bottle.
Yeah, so those you can just keep on the bottle.
Okay.
That we actually recommend just keeping it on, because if you do take it off, then it probably gets lost because it's so tiny, but they're usually made out of the same type of plastic material, so you can just leave that on.
Okay.
Well, that's
Mark,
good to know.
I will give to who? Laura Saunders?
What?
You want the corks?
No, actually,
It's Mary, I think. was
yes,
the-
actually, I need to talk to someone at BCC. In the past, they have accepted corks. And if they're still doing that, I will put a container down in our garbage room for corks. And that means cork, not the plastic that they're sometimes substituting. It has to be real cork.
Okay. Yeah, that's in Cove East. Thanks, Mary.
Cove East, yes.
Yeah, Mary Hunter is in charge of that. It's the cork person.
Yeah, we gotta revitalize this green committee. Who wants to be on it? Show of hands. Who wants to lead it?
There were a whole, yeah. Corinne
Oh.
wants to be on
I
it.
see Mary's hand.
I was just brushing my hair to the side.
Okay, any further questions?
When they started that green thing, there was a whole room full of people who came.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
sure there'd be a lot of people interested.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, even just from the turnout here, this is definitely an interesting topic to people. This is, I would say, twice as many people that were at yesterday's program, which was educational and cultural. But I think people really, they like the pragmatic stuff, and they like knowing what to do, to function in your daily life, and they want to leave a better planet for the next generation. So I think, I think we, from just I know not everybody wants to raise their hand now because they don't want to volunteer for one more thing or be singled out and laughed at like I can be sometimes. But I think lots of people would, from evidenced by this, I think lots of people, even some of you might be part of the revamped Green Committee.
Yeah, Alan, what I can do is maybe send you some of the electronic versions of the resources, because you said you have like a TV. That
Oh, yeah,
runs through
totally.
or something like that. Okay. And
Yep.
we can chat more offline on other resources that you would like to.
I would be very happy to share if there was like a single thing I could put on a TV that comes up every 10 seconds, what to do with your trash. And then that would be as people wait for the elevators, that would be as people wait for the movie to start on channel 370. It might even play while people are waiting for this program in the future. Hello, future citizens. So yeah, that would be great. I'd appreciate that.
For sure.
This is my aluminum ball.
Oh, wow. That's great.
It's great.
It's a little
That's
football.
ready to go in recycling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Vivian, thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if
Thanks,
folks,
everybody.
yeah, don't have any more questions, we can all hop off and enjoy the rest of this really
One
beautiful
more
day.
question. One question is, if I have a lot of loose letters and paperwork, is it better to put it all in one envelope, or is it better to just have a lot of loose paper?
Oh, that's okay. You can keep that loose.
Loose?
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and so if you stuff it into a big envelope, that's a problem because they'll have to pull it out. Is that it?
I guess if it's made out of the same material, that's okay to throw that in there. But if you would like, feel free to bunch those up. But if not, paper is very easy. You can just throw that
What about-
loosely.
What about the plastic windows on
Yes.
On
envelope.
The envelopes, yeah, so
Uh-huh.
that is okay. You can leave it on. Basically, when the paper gets recycled, it gets put into the solution where it can generally separate like some very thin plastic like that on an envelope. And so usually that basically I think floats up, and then the rest of the paper gets is on the bottom of the solution. They're able to separate and like sweep that away. So anything like very thin like that is okay. That's why we say like staples, and some of those papers here and there, that is okay too.
Staples? Staples are okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
what
can
we
be,
do
like,
is we put them
separated,
all
yeah.
in a soda can that's been cleaned out, and we
Or you can
recycle
do
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so would that also be true of like the plastic screen that comes on your box of pasta? Like, or should we rip
Yeah.
that off?
Mhm.
Okay, so that's okay to leave
Yeah.
on there. That's good to know, because I ripped that off and I put that in the bag of bags, and my family laughs at me. so.
Yeah. You can do that too. I'm not discouraging you from doing that, but if one day you're just like, I just don't feel like doing it, that's okay.
Oh, Claudia asked if there would be a tour of the recycling facility. That's a good question.
Yeah, so you can tour our recycling facility, which is in Woodinville. It's called Cascade Recycling
Where-
Facility, I'm assuming. But I don't know. I don't think they're starting the tours yet due to COVID. But if they do, I can let Alan know, and then y'all
And will you keep me posted?
Yeah, I
Because
can keep you
we
posted
are
on
itching to
that.
get out and do stuff.
Yeah,
As
Yeah,
safe,
I
of
will.
course.
right.
Recycling.
Yeah, I will make a note of that and see if there are any updates on that. But to my knowledge right now, I think they're still closed.
Okay. Well, good questions, everybody. Does anybody have any final questions before we finish for the day? Okay, hearing none, I'll say thank you, Vivian and Allison
Yes.
and Waste Management, for all this information and all the things you're going to send me that I can share. And have a wonderful
definitely.
rest of your day, everybody.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a good
you.
one.